pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, is the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
And I'll offer the invocation. Father in heaven, we come before thee this morning and pray as a county and as cities, and we pray for unity. We are grateful for the many blessings which thou hast given us. We are grateful for thy Son, Jesus Christ, and we're grateful for the prospects of a good new year, and we're grateful for a reset. We pray, Father, that the love of thy Son may go throughout the country as there's much division and as there is much violence. We pray for peace, and we pray for diplomatic good solutions to the differences and problems which we have. We pray for each member of the county and their representative families. We pray for health and the necessities of life. We thank thee for these things, Father, and come unto thee and ask them in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. County Manager, I'll turn the time over to you for comments.
All right, Mr. Chairman, have not received any public comments, and I don't know that there are any in the audience at this time. Seeing none, I suggest we move on to item 2, the annual assessor property valuation from our assessor, Miss Gemma Ferguson.
So, Gemma?
Good morning. Good morning. It's been a long time. Welcome, new commissioners. That's good to see y'all. For you new commissioners, our office, the assessor's office, is just privileged to have, that's being sarcastic, to be able to, I have to come twice a year to the commission. I do this one, the property valuation report, and then also another one then in April that shows how we're growing and the numbers thing. This isn't really numbers, this is just a lot of words. All this mostly is the calendar of what we do every month, what our deadlines are for different projects that we do. And it talks about the training that we've done and the training that we need to continue doing. Our reappraisal plan, that's the main thing, and the state's always hammering on me because we don't have enough people to do our reappraisal plan, and I don't know what to tell them. So anyway, it's going to be interesting this year. We've already had, on the livestock side, we've already had so many people, so many people have sold their cattle this year. I've had, I think, 10 so far that I've written down that have totally sold out. I mean, and it's not good. So don't be at all surprised next year when the numbers are down and according to the income is going to be way down for livestock. It's pretty sad. A lot of people have sold the majority. I talked to Mike Carter, and he said he still has 50 head, but he doesn't know why because he's having to keep feeding them. Mike, so that's okay. I talked to somebody else who said they were paying $10,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
I won't say who that was, but she said I just had to sell them all, and that makes sense. You can't afford to do that, and so it's going to be a really, really hard year for those in the agriculture industry this year. What they get to do, though, as long as I know that there's no cattle on the property, because of drought, we can give them a 3-year type of exemption, because ordinarily, in order to have grazing land, you have to have cattle on it. Of course, you can have one horse, and that considers it grazing, but anyway, but they have to pay taxes on that. So in other words, I've got them flagged now for the next 3 years, and so unless they don't put livestock on it again for 3 years, on that 4th year, whoever's after me will have to go back in and change that to miscellaneous land, which would be really, really expensive for them. Our staffing is good right now. We've hired our last person. We stole him from the detention center. He's a really sharp kid. I shouldn't say kid. Everybody's a kid to me. He's a very sharp young man, and he's learning really quickly. And so that'll be great to have him on board. So mostly, I think it's just like I said, the 21 expectations are going to be really, really, really different this year. It's really odd though because Value of residential properties are still up. They're still selling for 100, 150 square foot, brand new houses, and I don't quite understand that, but they are, but there's a lot more houses on the market now than there were prior in both cities. On the commercial side, it's going to be kind of interesting. A lot of the business personal property that people have to go ahead and report to us by the end of February, there's a lot of that. A lot of the companies are gone. But then on the other hand, we have a lot of new companies that are here, even just in the last year. So it's just this rotation basis. But we won't have, so there'll be a reduction in business personal property line too. Commercial properties are still remaining kind of the same, the price, what they're selling for, but not many are selling. So I don't know if that's, I don't know how that's going to fly. It's going to be a very interesting time when people get their notice of values, especially on the commercial side. And people are going to say, especially I can see it coming for hotels and restaurants. And that's their, and so, but they have to give us 3 years income and support, what they have in an average. The other large item that we have right now is those that report to the state, central assessed. And that's kind of an interesting project, like railroads report to the state. And so they report the whole state, all in one form to the state. And then the state divvies it out, how much is in each county. And so those are going to be down, I think, this year too. Maybe the first year since I've been here that our values aren't up. It's going to be interesting to see. But it's also funny because we're still taking farmland and making 100 houses out of it. So there you go. You're going to have a whole lot more, like you brought up that one time. You're going to have a lot more tax dollars with that.
So do you think the overall total valuation for the county, which is the basis for lots of calculations, that in the next fiscal year that'll reduce, or it's okay?
We'll have our numbers in April when I come back in April, and it'll be down for the first time since I've been here.
Okay.
Unless I'm just way off, and it'll be interesting.
And then last calendar year, your team was focused on valuations in the city of Carlsbad. Is that completed, or is that?
We've done portions of it.
Okay.
We will never, we finish and we start over, but we've never finished. Since I've been here, before Karen was here, we've never done the evaluation the way it's supposed to have been done. We've got the people in Artesia doing that area and people here doing the south area, but there's so many sales. The other day in Artesia, for 2 months, they had 90 sales to look at.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. And that's just, that's Artesia in 2 months. We have, the volume of sales is just amazing to me. They say the economy's bad and everything's down, and not that part.
Interesting.
Interest rates are low, so.
Exactly. Anyway, I'm open for questions. Okay.
This the plan requires an approval, so we missed that on the agenda.
Okay.
So we'll ask if you would.
We'll entertain a motion to approve the annual assessor property valuation report then.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second. Having a motion and a second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Finney, Cordova, sorry. I see I told you. Henry?
Yes.
And McCutcheon.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Jenner.
Gemma, can I have that?
Next, we have a presentation from the Arrowhead Center that Mr. Hooper commissioned.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Last year, NMSU Arrowhead did a study for us before the legislative session and kind of gave us some numbers and some things that we could take to the legislature. And then once they came and gave that presentation to the commission, Commissioner Carlson asked that we look at some other things, and so they've put together this revenue and expenditure analysis, and Dr. Kramer Winningham's with us today, and he's going to give us a presentation on what they came up with. So,
thank you. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Kind of getting an echo. I don't know if there's a good way to fix that.
We're good on this end.
You go ahead
Okay.
and our folks will adjust it on the fly as best they can.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks a lot for this opportunity. It's definitely an interesting study. I know in your handouts you did get the full presentation, or the full report. That may have the details easier to see, so you might refer to that. This presentation, I'm kind of going to walk through our approach and just show you how we did it, and then we can go through any questions to talk about the findings and then the approach we took. So the purpose of the study was to estimate the amount of revenue contributed to the state of New Mexico by each county and the state of New Mexico's expenditures in each county. And the goal of those findings was to determine the level of contribution, the net contribution from each county, or the net, whether they were net recipients of state budget. The reason that this study was necessary is county level revenue and expenditure data is not readily available. You kind of need to dig for it in a lot of different places, which is what we'll talk about, and how that all came together to produce the estimates for net expenditure or contribution. We looked at the county level revenues and expenditures over the last 5 years of available data. So that was fiscal year 2015 to fiscal year 2019 on the state's fiscal year. And from there, estimated the amount of revenue contributed to the state of New Mexico by each county, and then the expenditure in each county on a per capita basis. All right, as far as our approach, there's basically two pieces to this, the revenue analysis and the expenditure analysis. For the revenue analysis, we looked at gross receipts tax, including the compensating tax, and then selective taxes as well. Property taxes, the portion that goes back to the state. Motor vehicle revenues, personal income taxes, corporate income taxes, state land revenues, federal land revenues, the portion that's returned to New Mexico. Oil and gas severance taxes, so the school tax, severance tax, conservation tax, and production tax. Another note here is that some of these taxes and revenues are collected by the general fund and some go to permanent funds. For the purpose of this study, if it went to the state, regardless of fund, we counted it as a contribution to the state. For the expenditures, we primarily studied the House Bill 2 for each year, the 2014 to 2018 legislative sessions that set the budgets for the years ahead, so the fiscal years 2015 to 2019. We also looked at the New Mexico Department of Finance Administration's general fund year-to-date revenue accruals. Those were good for some taxes to show how much money was coming in from different tax sources. And then the New Mexico Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports over the same period did have lots of detail that we checked with as well. Each major category was analyzed individually. The county level allocations vary by fund, as do the departments and branches supported by these funds. So the major categories were the ones that are in the House Bill 2 budget: legislative, judicial, general control, commerce and industry, agriculture, energy and natural resources, health, hospitals and human services, public safety, transportation, and education. Some additional notes: the budget expenditures were not reconciled with the actuals. If you've seen those CAFA reports, there is a budget reconciliation for the general fund, but it doesn't go to the detail we needed to reconcile everything. So we kept everything as far as the budget expenditures. Financial activities such as investment income, debt service payments are in the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and not in the budget. We excluded these because they weren't directly attributable to a specific period. We also excluded federal revenues and expenses paid by federal sources to the state. And the goal of that was to highlight the state level contributions and expenditures of what was the purpose of the study. So for the revenue analysis, I'll go through the different revenue sources. I'll go through these kind of quickly, and then we can go back if you have questions. The report does detail how we did each one of these calculations for each of the revenue sources. In most cases, there was direct data available for the revenue sources. In some cases, when it wasn't, we had to do some type of estimations. For gross receipts tax, the fiscal year RP 80s, they show several things: total gross receipts, and these are available by county. And then they show the gross receipts tax. Basically, what we looked at was the taxable receipts, and we multiplied it by the state's portion of that, which is the 5.125%. Also, the selective taxes, these showed up in that general fund accrual. These weren't allocated by county, so we allocated them at the same rate as the gross receipts taxes. And so that's how we assigned the total amounts to each county for gross receipts tax, and then also the selective taxes. For property taxes, there's a small portion that goes to the state at this mill rate here. And so what we did is we looked at certificates of property tax, which are available by county. And so we took the total net taxable value of each property, multiplied it by that mill rate. Motor vehicle revenues, those are directly available from taxation and revenue. So we used those. Personal income taxes, we were able to get the total amount of personal income taxes per year, but not by county. So what we did was we looked at the Bureau of Economic Analysis personal income data, which is available by county. And so we allocated the personal income taxes based on their share of personal income. Corporate income taxes were allocated based on gross receipts data because that's not directly available for corporate income taxes. State land revenues, what we did was we looked at the reports for state lands, and then we were able to calculate the royalty deductions that were claimed on state lands. This was from Tax and Rev, so that's how we calculated the state land revenue, and so those were available by county. For federal land revenue, this is available through the Department of Interior Natural Resources revenue data. And so we took data from royalties, bonuses, rents, inspection fees, civil penalties, other revenues. And then we multiplied that by 49% because that's the portion of the federal land revenue that comes back to New Mexico. And then taxation and revenue does have data on the oil and gas severance taxes, school tax, severance tax, conservation tax, and production tax. There are also government activity revenues. So these are for the government functions that charge for services. Applicable to these categories here. Basically what we did was we allocated these government activity revenues to the counties by the category expenditures. So based on the percentage, say for general control that was spent in each county, we assigned the revenues at that same rate. Business activity revenues, so these are like the state fair, some medical centers and universities. We allocated these where the primary business activities were located. This came out of the comprehensive annual financial report. For expenditures, we basically used 4 different approaches, depending on what was available. We used an office or fixed location based approach when that was available. So if there was a office in a certain location, then that was allocated a portion of a specific budget. We used employee-based allocation for Human Services Department because it was available, and then also Cooperative Extension Services. The transportation budget was allocated by county population and miles of public road in each county. And then in some cases, we used a population-based distribution when the activities are statewide and not attributable to a specific location or set of employees. So this was like tourism development that benefited the whole state, public defender department. For the specific categories, and again, these are the categories from the House Bill 2, legislative expenditures were allocated to Santa Fe County. Judicial expenses were allocated based on where the courts, commissions, or other judicial activities were. They had fixed locations. Like I said, public defender department was allocated based on population, so was the statewide jury automation. General control was mostly allocated by offices, so you can see some examples here. Like tax administration budget was allocated 25% to the head offices in Santa Fe, and the remaining 75% was divided evenly among the field offices. Motor vehicle allocations are distributed among the 33 listed state offices. For commerce and industry, we allocated to specific counties where there were department offices. And then, like I said, the tourism development program was allocated counties based on population because it did benefit the whole state. Agriculture, energy, and natural resources. So these were mostly based on location with the museums and historic sites, game and fish field operations, oil and conservation appropriations, 25% to the head office in Santa Fe, and the remainder evenly among the 4 regional offices in Eddy County, Lea County, San Juan County, and Santa Fe County. Water resource allocation appropriation was split evenly among the 6 water district offices. Health, hospitals, and human services was this is a really big one. Was allocated by employees when that was relevant, or offices, and in some cases expenses for like the child health insurance programs, income support, and those type of things. So Commission for Deaf and Hard of Hearing appropriations, 25% to head offices, and then there's some regional offices, similar thing for the Commission of the Blind. The HSD 2020 data book was the one that had employees by division and by county, and so we allocated the personnel line item budget expenditures to the counties based on their number of human services department employees. That same data book also had data on Medicaid, child health insurance program, income support, and child support, and so we used this data for the county level allocations for those budget items. For public safety, we allocated this budget to counties based on locations or offices, in the case of state police offices and probation offices. And then we used bed counts for state prisons and correctional facilities. And then the law enforcement and statewide law enforcement support program was divided equally among the police offices in each county. For transportation, so these were allocated across all counties based on population and then miles of public road in the county. And then the office-based activities were allocated to counties where those were located. For education, higher ed expenses were matched to the counties where their institutions were located. The public education department, where their offices were located, were in Santa Fe, and then the other expenses that were allocated to counties were allocated the percentage of the state equalization guarantee distributions. That's the big component for public education. All right, so our findings, this is the top 5 net contributing counties for the state budget. Eddy and Lea County really stand out here due to the oil and gas revenues, taxes, and gross receipts associated with those economic activities. And Los Alamos, Bernalillo, and San Juan County. This map kind of shows the spread across the state. Darker indicates a higher net contribution. And so this might be easier to see in the report. Same with this table as well. So this shows all the counties, not just the top 5, based on the contributions per person, expenditures per person, and then net per person. The population numbers we used were from the census. We took an average of that period, 2015 to 2019. And then you'll see these at the end of the report too, per capita expenditure by category. Kind of the way to look at these is to see which ones stand out and then maybe try to interpret why they stand out. It could be some of the counties with smaller populations, if they did have a certain activity like a hospital or a prison or something like that, that might have a high amount per person. Or some of the counties with a lot of miles of road, but not a lot of people. We didn't go too much in the analysis of this because a lot of it is kind of nuanced with each county. But if there are particular counties you're familiar with, then you can kind of see and probably understand why these numbers are the way they are. And so this is the bottom half of those expenditures by category, again per capita. over the entire period. So these aren't annualized, it's the total amount net 2015 to 2019. And then per capita taxes by category, some things to notice here. You can see the school tax, severance tax, conservation, production tax. So those show up for the counties that do oil and gas extraction. High levels of gross receipts tax for Eddy, Lea County, and Los Alamos. Those kind of jump out there. And that's the bottom half of that chart in our table. Per capita revenues by category. So this shows state land revenues. Again, this is showing up with the ones that have oil and gas extraction. Government activity revenues. So you see Santa Fe's pretty high for government activity revenues. That's because a lot of those general control, or the government activity functions are located in the county, and then we allocate the government revenues based on those expenditures. And then business activity revenues, these are based on those activities, usually higher ed institutions, state fair, and some of the hospitals. So this consolidates some of those things, the total taxes and revenues per capita, to get to a total contribution for state revenue. And then also here are the numbers for federal expenditures. We did have to extract this to get federal expenditures out, but we included it here so you can see those in terms of federal expenditures. And that's all I got as far as the presentation, but happy to take any questions you guys have.
So, Commissioners, I think the one takeaway, we have the one-page summaries, and we'll get copies for all of you, and then if you want the detail in here, a lot of what Dr. Whittington was talking about, the methodologies in this report, and then the tables have all the details in that he showed you there at the end of in the appendix. That's where all the detailed information lies. But the intent here is to show, again, the disparity between the amount of revenue contributed, and then in this instance is a per capita basis, as a modifier or a unifier, if you will, relative to known expenditures on a state level. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the state spends that amount of money per capita in Eddy County or any other county, but it's the data that's available to try and analyze or assess what those theoretical state expenditures would be. And again, if you look at the amount contributed relative to the amount received on a per capita basis, Eddy and Lea County stand out head and shoulders. I mean, it's not quite orders of magnitude, but it's awful close, right? There's an $80,000 difference between the top two and the next 3, 4, and 5, right? So a lot of what's occurring, the revenues heading to the state coming out of this part of the state, we're not getting the commensurate values back. And I think it's an opportunity for the commission and our state legislators to have data in front of them that when these discussions come up around budget, around programs, to recognize that Eddy County continues to be one of the significant contributors, and it would seem appropriate to receive some consideration for support of county-type programs and projects that would continue to support that revenue generation. So that was the primary reason. It was, from Commissioner Carlson's request, what that looks like. So from the available data, Dr. Whittington has pulled that all together, and it's all from state databases, TRD, DFA, and all these other systems. And here it is, Blackman, they're just numbers, right? But when you look at them together, there's a stark difference.
Can we put a press release together with these numbers and send that out to the different TV stations and Albuquerque Journal, all the different publications throughout the state so that we can get that out there. And,
Absolutely.
and send that same news release out to every legislator in the state of New Mexico.
So we've printed up a dozen books, hard copies that have laminated front. We put a cover letter in the front of it to give to our local legislators.
Yeah, but it doesn't do any good. I mean, they already know the numbers.
Yeah, but people are not gonna read that, but something along the lines of what you're saying,
Yeah.
make it
Press release.
short and sweet and percentage.
So here's the one-page summary that has, that Dr. Winnington prepared. And we'll certainly put that out, make it available, and then,
It needs to go out to every legislator throughout the state, because we don't need to teach our legislators in southeast New Mexico. They already know the numbers. It's those guys in the north and stuff that don't consider it whenever they're voting against bills that could help us.
Do we have the same map as far as expenditures? Or this is just revenue?
no, the map is the net, but it infers.
It does talk about expenditure per person on here, but I don't know if people will understand, if everybody will understand how that works.
Well, I think the thing that they understand
There you go.
is Eddy and Lee County sent X number of dollars to the state of New Mexico. And this is kind of a variation chart. Every county in the state is listed here. Revenues underneath it or beside it, expenditures that they got back, and then there's a variance. It's either a favorable or unfavorable variance. In our case, it would be unfavorable.
Absolutely.
They would understand that.
And that data in those tables are in the back, and we can develop whatever kind of material you think would be effective in helping spread that message. But you're right, sharing this widely and broadly would be important. We gave the hard copies to our local folks so that they could have it at hand and show their peers and colleagues.
Yeah.
But getting that, because I'm with you, I think there's a lot of lack of understanding and awareness.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think that it would be, if we contacted all the major players in the legislature, and you kind of know who that is with, and our whole team does, that if we actually set up and went and visited the major players individually and carried our story with us, would be time and money well spent. And, if I could be of assistance of that, and if you would like for me to go with you, I'd love to do it.
Okay.
I just want to know where Eddy is.
Eddie's about dead.
Eddy? Yeah, he's really skinny.
That's right.
And he's hungry as hell.
He is.
Eddy is hungry.
You heard the assessor talk about selling the herd. We're doing all we can to keep Eddie alive. He's on life support.
Literally and figuratively.
He's going to the Packers.
Well, and I think, I agree with hitting legislatures and making them understand this, but, I also think something that's missed out is Santa Fe County commissioners, Bernalillo County commissioners, Doña Ana County commissioners, all passing some really pathetic policies towards oil and gas, and really pushing how bad oil and gas is. I think just pushing to legislation doesn't make sense. We've got to start making commissioners understand that, yeah, Doña Ana, y'all are really neat. You got a big city. Where are you? You're not even on the top 5. So thanks for playing. Now take your ball and go home. And let's make some good policy and make sure that what we're doing makes sense for, they need to understand where the money's coming from, why it's coming from here. Because especially Bernalillo and Santa Fe County, if you remember, she stood up last year at how proud Santa Fe County was at rejoining the Paris Accord and the climate and all that stuff. And that's fine if that's what you believe. I'm not against that. I'm not for it or against it. My point is, you need to understand exactly what you're coming after. Y'all aren't even contributing. So, I'm sure they're contributing somewhere. But let's be realistic. If you want your schools, if you want your roads, if you want things to work, these two counties make it happen. And why?
And to your point, I also think that the other information that Al emailed to us, breaking down the oil and gas contributions to education, that's not common knowledge among individuals. I think if we support this with that kind of information, people will have a better idea of, hey, this is important.
Well, and that number's 70%. So we've got about 35% from Eddy County and 35% from Lee County going to the state with the PED, right? So that's going directly to education. So you can make this math exactly the same and just put education as the common denominator in there. And it even gets more pronounced.
But the Namoga study that I shared, that's they do it annually, but that contribution is 38, this year is 38% of the state budget.
From Eddy County.
From oil and gas. But, so our contribution, right, us and Lee County contribute 38% of the state budget, and all of that is...
Of the state budget, but as far as the education budget, it's 70%, it's about 30%.
Correct, absolutely, that is correct, yeah, that is correct.
I just really think that we've got to start taking it, because legislation doesn't seem to be listening necessarily, but if we can get local governments, municipalities, to start understanding where their money's really coming from, because I think there's a lot of commissioners and a lot of city council members that have no idea where things happen. So if we can start educating that group, maybe then we can get some change in Santa Fe, because if they start putting pressure on their legislators, not just us, if Donnie commissioners or Las Cruces City Council start, or Santa Fe, hey, look, there is something to this. We've got to figure out how to work together. You know, and if we don't start working together, it's just not going to work across the board. So their ideas aren't all bad, but our ideas aren't all bad. So we've got to find some kind of common ground, and I think we've got to start even at a different level. And maybe take, I don't know, whatever y'all think, but we've got to take a different approach, because some of these, they don't listen.
Well, and the one thing that we've always heard when we go to the legislature, the people that I've talked to always go to, you know, their first comment is, well, what can I take back to my constituents to tell them why I should help Eddy County? That was the purpose of me wanting to do this study, was so that we can take something to the legislature and talk to those legislators and say, okay, this is what you can take back to your people to tell them why you need to be feeding the golden goose.
Well, it's objective data, you know, and you can't argue the numbers. So I think that's important to show.
The one thing that I think needs to stand out that I'm not seeing here are percentages. When people see the percentages, that'll stick in their head. The rest of these numbers, number one, and you know, is how large a percentage of the total state budget. I think that ought to be the headline.
I did want to point out to you some of you may remember the study I did last year that does kind of get at those percentages. This was the flyer from the study we did last year, and it focused on the Eddy County petroleum industry impact. And so then that does show, I think it was 10% of the state's non-federal revenue sources were from specifically Eddy County petroleum industry. And then it shows the job impacts. This one was from 2012 to 2018. So I think between both of these studies, I think those get at the numbers that you're looking for. And another thing I'd point out, I didn't undertake the study to prove a disparity. We just wanted to give you data. You guys are right, there is a disparity, and that's what the data shows. But our purpose for the study was not to find a disparity. It was to give you the accurate numbers, and most of that report kind of just provides backup and to support the conclusions, which are summarized as those net contributions per capita on the flyers.
To prove a disparity. Just so we're clear.
So you were the vehicle that accomplished that by compiling all the data without a bias, and then reporting it as it was collected and compiled.
Yeah, the last thing that we want to do is carry something to them and say, hey, this is what we put together.
That's right. No, I mean,
this is what New Mexico State University put together.
That's correct.
It carries a lot.
This legitimizes the objective.
That's exactly what they did in Williston, North Dakota. When we was up there, they talked about doing something similar to this so that they could go to every one of the legislators. You remember that, Stephen? They went to every one of the legislators and said, this is the reason why you need to help us. This is the money that we're sending. This is the money you're sending, and this is the money you're getting back. That difference is coming from, that variance is coming from Eddy and Lee County.
Correct.
And that's the reason why you need to help us do what we do so that we can help you do what you need.
Correct. Absolutely right. Well said. Well said.
Okay.
Other comments or questions?
I'll work on getting those meetings set up, and then I might see also if we can give some presentations to the commission meetings and council meetings.
Oh, that'd be
some of the major players. So.
And the MOGA numbers that you sent around, those are very impressive. You know, that's, you know, we're looking at two sets of numbers here.
Right.
Yeah. All of those people that think they want to damage oil and gas production down here need to see those numbers.
And I think that's why I don't mean to pick on Donny Anders just because they've got legislatures there that are writing really, really bad legislation towards oil and gas. And that's why if we could get those kinds of cities to start focusing and talking to the legislatures.
Educating them on
Yeah, so let's find the Rubios, the Eli's, let's go to their areas and say, hey, we're putting legislation together to stop this. Let's educate your folks around you and see what they think.
It's a great point.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you, Wes. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dr. Whittington. All right. Next item on the agenda is the IFB RFP bid awards. We'll have Ms. Roberta do those.
Well, Arrowhead Center, they dig in and find some, I'd have never thought to do it per capita.
It's a lot
But the per capita
of information, it's a lot of that.
really.
So it normalizes it, right? It just,
I mean,
so even if those counties that have huge populations, you still look at them,
Yeah.
and we're still head and shoulders above a rural county.
we're 40 times what Bernalillo County is, literally.
Yeah. So that includes all their GRT, all their,
And they're getting the bulk of the money.
absolutely right.
And that sucks.
No, sign up for 20 times. We're exactly 20 times 40 times, but that's a lot. Sorry, Bert.
You're fine. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. IFB 2028 was for Old Cavern Highway Road rehabilitation. This was solicited back in December 14th, 2020, and we opened bids on January 12th. We did receive 3 bids from Constructors, J&H, and Renegade. All were considered responsive. The lowest overall bid was Constructors, and so therefore staff is recommending award to Constructors with the total responsive bid of $1,018,614 plus GRT for $60,692.08. So it would be a total of $1,079,306.08.
Any questions? You're good with it, Roberta? Anybody got any questions, sir? Roberta? Jason, you're good? Okay.
When's that gonna start? Did I miss that?
Jason could probably answer that question.
This just, while he's coming, this is part of the relief route monies that we're working, that we'd gotten some state support for from the Secretary of Transportation. So these two in particular are the follow-on of, these are the culmination of that work and effort with the state.
What was your question, sir? Did that answer?
When's it gonna start?
Once we get our award out today, we'll send notice of awards, and we'll schedule pre-cons with them. Realistically, probably mid-February.
Okay.
is when they'll go out there and mobilize. This is a chip seal project, so we will schedule that accordingly. They might prefer to do it all at once, so we'll talk with them and see what best fits their schedule to accomplish it all at once, so we're not doing part of it and suspending time or whatever we need to do. We'll talk with them and see what's best for them.
Based on weather and.
Based on weather and,
Okay.
right, existing
When I'm
priorities.
advertising the road department to different people, the first question I get is when? Yeah.
Nope, we're there. It's going.
Great. Any further questions? Seeing none, we will entertain a motion to accept IFB 20-20 at Old Cavern Highway Road Rehabilitation, awarding to constructors.
So moved that. Or I'll second it.
Having a motion, a second, please call the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, IFB 2029 was for Black River Village Road improvements. It was solicited again on December 14th, 2020, and sealed bids were open on January 12th. We received 4 bids for this one, constructors J&H, Renegade, and Spartan Construction. All of them were deemed responsive. The lowest overall bid was submitted by constructors in the amount of $1,230,216 plus GRT, for a total amount of $1,303,515.96. So staff is recommending award to constructors.
Pretty good bids. Any questions? Same thing on this one? Time frame, wait till it warms up?
This one will probably go a little quicker as it doesn't have chip seal on it, and this will be straight paving. So I see them probably doing this one first and going ahead and rolling in on this one.
Awesome. All right. Guess we'll entertain a motion to accept IFB 2029 Black River Village Road Improvements award to constructors for the amount of $1,303,000. Is that right? $303,515.96.
So moved.
Second.
Having a motion, a second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera and Jason.
And every time, you guys just bring in new roads.
That's good.
It just makes me feel good.
Very good.
It just makes me feel good.
There's tremendous amount of work that has gone on, been accomplished, in progress, and still to come. So, as Ms. Roberta and I met with Jason the end of last week and sat down and looked at the culmination, the story that's there, and we're going to work on some material to present to you during the upcoming budget cycle to give you an idea, completed, progress, on the books. And Jason and his team have done a great job. Most of the arterial work is done, the collector work is, some's done, some's in progress, and a fair amount of the feeders have had some attention, and that will be the next big step. So we'll give you that detail in the coming months.
I love it because both these projects are in my district.
Speaking of districts, and well, we'll talk about that later. Okay. Moving on to the trailing agenda. Commission meeting minutes for January 5th.
Questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve commission meeting minutes for January 5th, 2021.
So moved.
I'll second.
Having a motion, a second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Expense approval for December 2020.
Questions, comments? Entertain a motion to approve expense approval.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, item 2, we're going to pull. Initially, Rita was looking for,
We've got to do e-cards.
oh, sorry, purchase card approval for December 2020. My apologies.
Questions, comments? Entertain a motion to approve
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
All right, that's all. Item 2 was to be, we were going to pull it. It was a request for county monies to support Rita on a capital outlay, but we worked with Rita, and they're going to go for the whole $265,000 in capital outlay. So they don't need a matching component at this point, so we pulled it off the agenda.
I'll entertain a motion that we pull matching funds for capital outlay project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
The next item, number 3, is reclassification of a DWI screener treatment provider position to Assistant DWI Program Director, Ms. Cynthia. Good morning.
Good morning to each of you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cynthia Sharif. I'm the DWI Program Director. The DWI program is a grant-funded program. The county is our fiscal agent. We're privileged to be part of the county. Very fortunate that they're our fiscal agent. They also cover our benefits, and we're thankful for that. Our program is very complex with multiple funding streams, providing services countywide with our with offices in Artesia and Carlsbad. In July, I will have 28 years of public service through the Corrections Department, Human Services, and Eddy County. And I need to start looking at a succession plan. I have no plans right now, but
You just keep it that way.
okay.
Just, for those that aren't aware, the DWI program in Eddy County is one of the top in the state, and it's recognized by the peers in the state as being such. And a lot of that is, all of that's attributable to the director and her staff and the programs that get accomplished. If you see some of the DWI statistics for Eddy County, you'll note how much is involved there and how broad that program is and all the agencies that it supports. It's one of the upcoming agenda items, but there is a seat open on that board coming here, so I encourage that.
Is the commission involved anyway in retirement discussions with?
Yeah, we'll have a direct effect on it. Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, I thought we
should have significant influence.
I know that we vote on gay, if gay.
Yes.
So I know that was part of it.
Yeah. No, this is in the same bucket. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. What I'm requesting this morning is that my treatment provider screener position be reclassified to Assistant DWI Program Director. Give me the opportunity to involve that person with grant writing, et cetera, and all the ins and outs of operating the DWI program. The reason that that position was selected as the one to be reclassified is my position requires that the person who holds a position be a licensed counselor. I'm a nationally certified addictions counselor and a substance abuse counselor through the state of New Mexico. Which my treatment provider screener is also a licensed counselor. And there are 2 of us and the DWI program staff that are licensed counselors. I do have 2 contractors who are also licensed. And the cost, if you do approve reclassification of that position, is $1,795.80 for the rest of this fiscal year. And next year, it would be an increase of $4,244.63 total increased cost to the program. And I'll stand for any questions.
In this position, this person, you said, is already licensed counselor and addiction counselor.
Yes, and she is a master's level addiction counselor, nationally certified as well, and has been with the program since May of 2015. Prior to coming to work for us, she worked at the detention center. Prior to that, at Carlsbad Mental Health.
Very good.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing no other questions, I'll entertain entertain a motion that we approve the reclassification of the DWI screener / treatment provider for the position to Assistant DWI Program Director.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Having a motion and a second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Thank you all for your support. Thank you again for your kind words.
Thanks, Ms. Eddy. The next item is approve, disapprove an indigent burial. Ms. Veronica.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So Dan,
Jason?
It's probably Jason.
seek approval for an indigent burial with West Funeral Home.
Say really quiet. I entertain a motion that we approve one indigent burial.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Veronica.
Welcome.
Next item on the agenda is the second quarter lodger's tax report from Ms. Roberta.
Good morning again. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is the second quarter lodger's tax report for 2021. We did start the beginning of the fiscal year with a cash balance of $250,000, and we're just slightly under that as of December 31st of $248,000. If you could scroll up a little bit, please. For the second quarter for revenue, we did collect $11,221, bringing our total for the year to $22,365. If you could scroll up one more page. Right there, thank you. And for expenditures for the second quarter, we expended $12,601, bringing our total for expenditures to $24,333. And I will stand for any questions on the quarterly.
So, how much money do we have budgeted for that, the lodger's tax?
We normally budget $50,000 just as a rough estimate, and we do budget adjustments throughout the year as the board meets and spends money.
And we have the 50,000, we spent 12,000?
We spent $24,300.
24, so we spent half of it.
We're about 50% right now.
Yeah. We need to encourage people to promote our county.
So we have the signs that are, the design's finalized, and I think Jason has.
I think they're coming close to writing that up to spend that money. I think that's what Jason
So that they're ready to pull the trigger on those. Then they would place them on the roads that we discussed, entering and exiting the county. So that component's just about ready to be executed. I think he's got all the prices and the details, and we're just about ready to write the request.
Yeah. So I'd like to see our whole budget spent. I mean, I think that if we don't spend it, we're not promoting our county the way we should be.
Well, they usually do a good job. I mean, most of it got canceled this year, right? Unfortunately, because usually you have the rodeo, the fair, what else is there? That beer thing they do. I'm trying to think.
Cavern Fest.
Cavern Fest. I mean, there are a lot of things that.
But I agree with you. I mean, if we
Year in and year out, we haven't spent the whole budget.
No, of course, I would agree.
And we need to be spending that whole amount. That money is allocated to promote the county of Eddy, and that's what we need to be doing. I know you don't have anything to do with that, but.
Yeah, we roughly collect around, $75,000 a year, and we don't spend that, and that's where that cash balance has collected year after year, because we roughly spend about that $50,000. There's some years where we spent a little bit more, a little bit less, but that's where that cash balance is
And
coming.
it does roll over.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and we need to be spending 100% of it.
Is there any way we could use that to promote this information that we got from the Arrowhead Center?
Potentially.
I mean, could we do
I
something?
mean, I would think we can check with the county attorney, but I would think that type of promotion would fit under the lodger's tax guidance.
Yeah, as long as it's promoting, advertisement, tourism, that's what the lodger's tax is supposed to be spent on.
I'm kind of going with John here on this, because he says, hey, we've got to educate the county commissions and the city council. Well, we also have to educate the people in those other communities that benefit so much by oil and gas revenue. If there's a way that we can use this money, because I think I'm with Ernie. We ought to be using every cent of it to go. I'm glad we had a bunch in the kitty so that we could get our signs. Because I think that's a great thing that we're doing. But if we,
I think we are by taking this around, we are promoting businesses in Eddy County. And so I think that's exactly what it should be used for.
We could buy a lot of advertising with $250,000.
Yeah.
And part of that ought to be come and support the county that supports the state.
That's right.
But we had the Eddy billboard, we had 2 coming and going between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. We canceled those because of the change in legislative session, but that's still a possibility, and whether we want to keep that message or, anyway, we still have those avenues open.
I think we ought to keep it. I think that people, if it isn't the legislators seeing it, it's the people seeing it.
Yeah, I agree.
I also had a thought, once we kind of get back into sports and whatnot, there was a lot of talk about, if families were coming down, for, tournaments, sporting events, they couldn't afford to stay in Carlsbad because, hotel rates were so high. Perhaps this could be something that we could include, if we're promoting sports type events, to really stay and explore Eddy County.
I think we ought to support all things, but we need to be spending that entire budget every year.
Okay.
do we have obviously we're just talking about it right now, but do we have a plan to do so? Don't we have a lodger's tax committee? Aren't you on the lodger's tax committee?
Mm-hmm. I'm on it.
You guys are both on it.
I don't get to vote.
Do we have?
I like to vote.
Are we still having lodger's tax meetings?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And they're going to be meeting again soon as we bring the lodger's tax, the additional portion of lodger's tax into county ordinance, so that will be reviewed by the lodger's tax committee, consider the language, and then there'll be some public hearings, and we'll bring it to commission. So they're going to be pretty active here this quarter.
Okay. All right. And this is requires an approval, looks like, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion that we approve fiscal year 2020-2021 second quarter lodger's tax report.
Make the motion.
Who is?
Anyway, we have a motion and a second.
Okay. Got it.
John and Ernie. There we go. Please call for the vote.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berta. Next, we have a budget adjustment request for the Queen tanker from Josh Mack.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This morning, we're here to ask for a mid-year budget adjustment. We tried to avoid these all year. This one just has come up. Queen has a 15-year-old tanker. It was converted from a water hauler that was purchased used. It's a 99, and it has 3,491 miles, which isn't a lot, but sitting up on the mountain, it doesn't get much road mileage. Some of our concerns are it doesn't have a jake brake, so when they're coming down off, if they're not experienced at driving it, we have high potential for an accident. The current tanker is 3,000 gallons. This one will be 3,000 gallons as well, but it'll serve for wildland urban interface, which is what we try to focus on up there with the mountain and the community that's around it. The majority of the use of our trucks up there are during controlled burns with state forestry. Every year we try to burn a line around the community since the fire that they had up there in 2011. So pretty much just preventative, and then any other things that we have. The current truck does have a pretty severe water or oil leak. There's actually oil puddled under it. We've attempted to get parts, and we're having trouble getting the parts for that type of engine. So the one thing I would like to remind everybody is that with this truck being built, our standard build time is 12 to 14 months due to COVID and everything being backed up, there is potential that it could be extended out. In the meantime, we do have a truck at the office that during fire season, if we have to, we'll move it up there and bring this one down off the mountains. I'll stand for any.
And this budget adjustment is just changing accounting lines.
Yes, sir. It should, well, all it is taking cash balance of their current fire excise balance and transferring it over into the heavy trucks because it was an unbudgeted purchase.
You got any questions? What kind of engine is it? In the truck?
It's a Pierce. So the other nice thing is we bought the new tanker for Riverside about a year and a half
So
ago.
what kind of engine is it that's leaking oil that you can't get parts for?
Oh, David has all that information. He hasn't sent that to me yet, but
It seems like it's only got 3,000 miles on it. Surely
Yeah.
you could figure out how to fix an oil so you can keep using it.
Yeah, well, that was the initial plan, and they've just, like I said, they've struggled trying to get the accurate parts, and when they have attempted to fix it, it just hasn't. And it's been to the shop, I believe, 2 or 3 different times.
So we can get you that.
Yeah, I'll pull it
history
up for you.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
I asked the same questions, right? I mean, it's in some of these settings, even though it's 15 years old, but how many hours on the motor, how many hours on the pumps, how many, and if we're spending more to maintain it, there's that trade-off there that, so.
Another thing is this new truck obviously comes with a approved fire pump. It's all NFPA standard, whereas the water truck doesn't. It needs the engine to go with it so that we have the accurate flow, and as we all know, we don't always have 2 people, we may have 1, so they're going to have to pick a truck. Are they going to take the one with 1,000 gallons, or are they going to take the one with 3,000 gallons?
How many trucks do you have on the mountain?
They have an engine, 3 brush trucks, and the tanker.
How many volunteers do we have up there?
4.
4. So they all get their own rig?
Well, I think there's 6 total that help out up there, and we have 2 that actually live up there. So.
Okay.
And
can you use all those vehicles up there with that?
I mean, once we all get up there, yeah, we'll all pick one up. That's the nice thing is with it being so remote is having the actual trucks there, so we can take the command vehicles, pick up the trucks, and go out.
Okay.
And we're working on a report like that for you to demonstrate all the trucks in each fire district. So.
Okay.
So when those trucks are in use on Forest Service or other fires, does the county maintain those, or do they operate them, or do we allow?
We operate them
Okay.
for them, but we also have the ability to submit for reimbursement, which we do. So we get paid back for.
But it's not like we turn them over to the Forest Service and they run them.
No, sir.
Yeah.
That's our personnel.
What happens to the old truck?
The old truck will come down and it'll more than likely go to auction.
Any questions? Looks like we will entertain a motion to approve the mid-year budget adjustment for the Queen tanker.
So moved.
A second.
Please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
All right, there's 2 pages here that you need to sign twice. I think, was there 3 or 2?
Sign all 3.
Yeah. There's only 2 there, yeah, so there are 5 spaces, if you'd sign and on the first and second page, pass it around, that would, thank you very much. Yeah, it's just right there, Okay, the next item on the agenda is the committees and boards for the commission appointments.
Medical director.
Oh, man, quit scrolling up. Thank you.
Medical direction, Josh Mack, right? So we're at.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, one of our main focuses has been to get our EMS in line. Through that, we have a pharmacist here locally that we get our medications from. To maintain compliance, we have medical direction, which we have contracted with the company. Last year was our first year. It's all in line with Artesia Fire, Carlsbad Fire, Trans-Aero, which is one of the local helicopter companies, and the WIP Fire Department. We all have the same medical director, so the fire board has approved through a 60% project to pay this $15,000 for the year for our medical director. This is also the person that signs off on everybody's EMS licenses for skills. Stand for any questions.
Commissioner Carlson, you got any questions? Mr. Beard, are you good? Okay. We will entertain a motion to approve the medical direction services for fire services.
So moved.
Second. Having a motion second, please call for the vote.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes. Thanks, Josh.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners.
All righty. Now we'll do the, we sent out the workbook that has all of the boards and commissions that commissioners participate on, and we need to update that with the two commissioners who've moved off the board or off the commission, and see if there are any changes that you would like to have for those committees. So I don't know if you want to just scroll through each of those and make updates, or if you have specific recommendations that we can take off and update that way. How do you want to proceed with that? And then we'll need to approve that.
Well, do we want to give the new commissioners option to opt into these, or just want to?
Well, it depends on how you want to go.
Are there any committees that you, Commissioner Cordova, would like to be on? I mean, just looking at it.
I had talked to Alan about this. He had recommended the DWI Advisory Council. And I know that Susan wanted to retain some positions as well. And I don't think you have those highlighted.
So the ones that Commissioner Crockett, or former Commissioner Crockett, would like to continue to participate on are the ELA and ECA, the ELIA and the nuclear stuff.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. But if there are any of you that would like to do that instead, you know, it would be your preference and choice. But she's willing to do that on behalf of Eddy County if that's your desire.
I don't have any issue with that.
Okay. Then as I'd suggested, the DWI Council, I think Commissioner Cordova would be good. The other one is the Solid Waste Commission Committee. Susan and John, Commissioner Henry are on that board if you want to change that.
Which one are we talking?
Solid Waste Committee. And then former Commissioner Crockett also said she would still participate in the CDOD executive board. She and Commissioner Carlson are on that board. So if you want to leave it like that. Then there's the Carlsbad Main Street Board. I don't know if that's of interest to any of you. I shouldn't say it like that. That's an active board. There's a new executive director, Ashley Key, and even though the COVID pandemic has precluded some of the events that Main Street sponsors, they've still worked hard to keep that effort going. So there needs to be someone on the Carlsbad Main Street Board. Commissioner Crockett had served on that. There are some The Pecos Valley Water Users Board needs it has it had former Commissioner Walterscheid on it. I thought perhaps Commissioner Beard would be interested in that particular board.
I would, and I'll probably get in trouble with it.
Well, there's plenty of trouble going around. And then Southeast New Mexico Committee and Action Corp Board, that's the one that Commissioner...
Talk about getting stuck. I actually sat through the meeting, and two things I took away from that. First of all, it was not well attended at all. And about halfway through it, people started just dropping out. I think they've got a lot of lofty goals. I don't see them getting much of that passed in the current environment. But one that stuck with me is the hold harmless. We're going to try to go back to some of the hold harmless stuff. Yeah. And that's kind of where we got stuck. I know some previous commissioners took their advice and decided to raise county taxes. None of them are here anymore. I'd like to find out more about that as time goes on, and some kind of a water users conservation fund came up. They're going to start charging 3 cents per 1,000 gallons, and that wasn't well explained to me where that's going to come from. I would convert that into a new water tax, but we'll see where that goes.
The other, this is the Southeast New Mexico Community Action Corp, and the last list we had Stella Davis and Commissioner Wood as the alternate. And I don't know how active that board is. That's item 14 in the workbook. It says to set priorities of federal community action programs. I don't know.
They're pretty active.
Are they?
I thought they were. Southeast Community.
Okay, so I guess, do we just want to run?
Yeah.
Because we've got the Southeastern New Mexico Economic Development, Brine Water Remediation, and Mayor Southwest Loop. We can probably leave Susan on Southwest Loop, I would think. So, Commissioner Beard, if there's something that stands out to you that you'd like, and then Commissioner Cordova as well, maybe we'll jump on there. But we'll start out, and we want to put Commissioner Cordova on the DWI. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Labor Relations. Do we have anybody in that spot? Or?
We've been trying to get that board set up between HR, and it's been a challenge because we need a
former labor
representative.
That's one we're trying to get Ronnie on, or Ronnie said he would.
Yes.
Okay.
Long and short of it, so he's got to get that recommendation from
that fella,
the guy at Navajo.
Okay. So what's the?
And then I don't know if he sent that, and there was some reluctance to put Ronnie on there. I don't know what happened. You know, they made a recommendation to somebody that wasn't qualified at one time.
Right.
And it has to be made by a union representative.
Yeah.
He just can't do it himself. The union itself has to write the letter on their letterhead and present that.
Okay.
And my understanding is also, after the first of the year, where we didn't get a labor board, the other member to the board, that we are now falling underneath the state. If we have issues that come up, we will be under the state labor board.
I don't think we want that, just as a general rule.
No, but I absolutely agree.
Can we fix that problem, or are we stuck now?
We can try. That was the legislative that was coming through. That's why we were pushing to get someone on there. But we can still have our labor board, and he represents us. When it goes, if we ever go to a vote or somebody wants to come in and try to unionize, we'll be up against the state labor board.
So what is I don't know what this I don't know much about this. What is our action item to get this handled right?
Yours is, I mean, it's not to try to replace it with a commissioner right now.
Right.
This recommendation has to come, and the guy from Navajo said he would do it.
Yeah.
I thought he told me he had made a recommendation of, right, but I haven't ever seen it.
Okay.
And Ronnie told me he thought he had, but I haven't seen it,
I
and
know
it has.
Ronnie's excited to do it. I mean, Ronnie was.
And he would do it.
Forever.
Ronnie Bear?
We can never get anybody from the union, because it has to come from the union,
Yeah.
to write that letter, and,
He says he did write the letter.
So we just need to reach out to him?
Follow up with him and figure out where that's at? You guys are what?
Cass and I just talked about that.
Okay, good.
That's what I'm saying. The guy from the union at Navajo indicated that they were making a
I've
recommendation.
never seen it.
And I've talked to him multiple times.
Yeah, I've talked to him 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Maybe we just have.
I can call him right after the meeting and say, and tell him one more time, let's get that done. Yeah, we can get that straight.
Because then it'll be all squared away. And I know he wants to do it, so.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Good deal. Eddy County Planning Development Advisory Committee, we're missing somebody. Is that, whose district is that out of? Because we've got Haley in Artesia, we've got Lane in Commissioner, what's your name? Commissioner
Those
Carlson.
were appointed by each.
We just had was it Joe that just retired?
Is that your?
I don't know if
I don't
that's
know.
mine or if that would be yours.
What's that?
'Cause who just resigned off that? Was it Joe?
It was,
Whose district? Is that 2 or
I don't know for sure.
Commissioner Beard?
Been trying to figure that out.
Where's Haley?
Haley's gotta be mine.
Haley's yours, so that's Commissioner Beard.
So I would
So-
assume that's yours.
So then,
I'm not sure just where we're,
so what this is Eddy County Planning Development Advisory Board, they meet and they go over different,
Ordinances.
yeah, to recommend to us, and we each appoint people from our districts, or our districts are represented, so we would ask you to find somebody in your district that could fill that vacant spot, not you, but, yeah, just somebody like, I've got Valerie Merle, Commissioner Carlson has Lane Norton, so, people with good judgment, I mean, it's just so, we may leave that with you, Commissioner Beard. Solid Waste Advisory Committee, Susan Carpenter, does she want to stay on that, she said, or?
So I think Commissioner Cordova's gonna do that. Is Freeholder Board, is Bo still around?
He is.
Okay. Somebody said he left town.
Well, I mean, he's here, kind of.
Okay. That's all we care, as long as he's here.
Think he'll make the meeting?
Yeah, yeah. So I think he's okay there. So.
On that solid waste, if somebody has excitement for that, I don't have to be on it. I don't mind being on it, but I'm not trying to take it away from anyone.
We know your passion, John.
I do love trash, so make sure it's cleaned up. Okay. No, anybody that wants to jump in on something, just holler at me.
Okay. Lodger's tax, looks like we need to find somebody to appoint, or we're gonna have a quorum there, is that correct? Or, how does that work?
I want to stay on lodger's tax.
You on lodger's tax? John, are you staying on lodger's tax?
I can say, well, that's fine.
Okay, we have another vacant seat, so how do we handle that seat? Do we just appoint somebody, or?
It needs to be appointed
Okay.
for voting.
Okay. Okay, do we do any specific, I mean, it looks like we may do specific districts there, or?
No, we just try to find
There's different rules that go with that appointment, right? So they take at-large business members, owners of motels, that type of thing, so we may have to figure out
which one that is.
Okay.
Lodging owners, it's very specific in the ordinance,
So,
exactly what type of.
I don't know if, so there are 2 people that come to mind. Is it Patek, that she has several hotels here, she's on the chamber board.
Yeah, they have to be county. Not.
Valerie Merle's in the county, and she has a few B&Bs, and she has some of the workforce camp facilities. She might be someone to consider.
Valerie's on.
She's on
Yeah, she.
How about Balzan?
No, that's Valerie Branson.
Valerie Branson says,
Oh, you're talking,
Valerie Merle,
okay.
yeah. She might be someone to consider. She's pretty active in that space.
And then does she own businesses in the county?
Mm-hmm. She owns Merle Electric. She owns 1 or 2 workforce camps, some executive housing, and some Airbnbs.
Are those in the city limits or the outside the city limits?
I'm sure it's a mix.
She would be good because she would show up.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
So that would be the recommendation, and we can make sure that she meets the qualifications. Yeah. So the recommendation for that vacancy would be Valerie Merle.
Okay. And then down to Artesia Chamber of Commerce. We've got members non-voting. Alternate was Larry Wood. John Henry, you're the number 1 guy there. Is that something that you would like to do, Commissioner Beard?
I think
Be the
so.
alternate?
That'd be, I'm about to get boarded up, but anyway.
She just calls every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's very rare that
I've
we
talked
get
to
a
her
call.
about that, so, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of obligated myself, so.
All right.
So we're changing that from Commissioner Henry to Commissioner Beard.
No, Commissioner Wood
Oh, sorry, is the alternate. Gotcha.
is the alternate, yes, sir.
Sorry.
Then we have CDOD and Susan staying on the CDOD, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then Main Street Board, how did you put it earlier? Who would ever want to be on that board?
I did not say that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Y'all knock that off. Ernie, we put you there to take care of the county attorney. That was by design.
Okay.
So if there's someone, the Main Street, Carlsbad Main Street, they are very active, and so it would be good to have someone represented there, what goes on. So
Sure, I mean, I'll do it. It's within my district. I think it would be good.
Okay.
National Emergency Dispatch Authority. Just need an alternate there. What is that?
Rita.
Oh, duh.
911.
Okay. How about since I'm on the fire board, I'll take that one as well as the alternate, because I'm on the fire board unless somebody else wants it. I mean, I don't have to have it, but okay.
We can talk to.
You're taking the alternate?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another one if you want.
Oh no, John.
Passion,
No.
you can.
Oh no.
Oh no, John.
I got lots of friends.
Mayor Miller's the chair of that executive board, and I sit on the executive board with him, along with John and others, so, yeah. It's a robust organization and
Is this the
meeting.
regional emergency dispatch?
Yes, and Southeast New Mexico Community Action Corp. Don't have any idea what that is, but you said they're pretty active, is that
I
right?
thought they were, aren't they?
They used to be.
Stella used to be pretty busy with them.
Last several years, we haven't seen a lot come out of there.
Yeah, so we need both a primary and an alternate there, because Stella's left the county. She's moved to Texas, I think.
Do we need to find out if they're meeting and if we need to assign somebody to that first, or, I mean, is that?
I agree with that. Yeah, find out what the logistics are.
Okay. Can we do that?
Yep.
Yeah, and what kind of time?
Mhm.
Like how often?
It's
Stella and Larry.
every other month on the third Thursday.
Is it, hopefully, is it still what's happening? I guess to your point, how active are they?
Yeah. Let's figure out how they're doing there, and then maybe we can figure that out at a following meeting. Southeast New Mexico Economic Development.
That's the one that Commissioner Beard, you wisely suggested he would be an outstanding candidate. And he was. Yeah, well done. Well played, sir.
Brine Well Remediation Advisory Authority.
Okay, I remember why. Because I was chairman last time we switched this for some reason. We hadn't switched even when you became chairman, but Susan wanted to stay the primary. So she says alternate, but
She's primary.
she was the primary the whole time because she's been in that the whole time, so.
I wouldn't mind doing that if you guys want me to do that.
That's great.
Okay.
And then we said Susan staying on the Southwest Loop bypass.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think in this calendar year, the county will have the north phase of that done. We should finalize the renewal of the land agreements.
Is that on the west side?
West side.
Yeah.
That's where we're gonna go out south of the airport?
That would be the phase 2, yeah.
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 Where will phase 1 end?
Phase 1 will likely, it was initially thought that we'd stop at Hidalgo, but it's not that far to take it on to Commerce. So I think phase 1 would incorporate crossing Hidalgo and going across the state and some private parcels there and coming out on Commerce.
Now, see, that's the whole kicker, because it's designed to come out not on Commerce.
On Corrales.
On Corrales.
Yeah, I think.
And I think that we need to change that and come straight across to Commerce. It makes no sense to make an S turn in the middle of Dark Canyon, because you're just making a weaker roadway. Because once you start making those S turns, that water, when it does come down every 50 years or however, it follows a straight path, and your weak links are the turns.
Can we take care of this in directors' reports or whatever? Not that we're off, I mean, I started it, I understand.
Yeah, but that's, so, yes, that is the.
Don't ever do that again.
Use that hammer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I will use it. Okay. Good deal. So we've got that. We've got the Mayor Southwest Bypass. We're done. We're ready to rock and roll, huh?
So we just now need to
ratify that.
Approve as amended.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve it as amended.
I'll second.
Well done.
Having a motion and a second, please call for the vote.
Beard.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Cordova.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. I know that was a bit of sausage making, but we needed to get it done, so thanks for taking the time. Next item is the resolution and consent agreement agenda.
Do we have any items to pull or discuss? No. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion that we approve the resolution and agreement consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Having a motion and a second, please call for the vote.
Beard.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Cordova.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
All right. The next item on the agenda is department updates. So, yes, sir. Department, just before that. So, for once I was tracking real carefully. Yeah, I'm glad it shifted that way now, so.
You're just throwing it in there, though. Just sneaks up on you.
Yeah, so, any particular departments that wish to, oh, here comes Mr. Berta.
Chairman, Commissioners, I just wanted to give a quick update. Unfortunately, at the end of this week, we'll be losing our procurement manager, Kristen Novotny. However, we are contracting with Tammy West. We've already been contracting with her. She's highly qualified in procurement. She retired at Chavez County with 25 years plus experience. She teaches procurement classes at the state, so she'll be helping us with our procurement needs until we hire someone else. Also, I wanted to let you know I will be bringing a mid-year budget review for our financials in either the first or second meeting in February to report to you all. And we will be starting to roll out the budget come February as well too, so that will be coming up. And also finance, we'll be putting on a finance training for all elected officials, department heads, and anybody else who'd like to attend. It'll probably be through Zoom. So we'll be sending that information out here shortly at the end of the week. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Mr. Mack?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just wanted to bring you up to date on the Fire Investigation Task Force that we established, I believe it was about 2 years ago. Brendan Harvey, the Fire Marshal of Artesia Fire Department, is the director of that for me. It's a county-based task force that includes all city entities, police, fire, same with the county. We've got a pretty good core group of members that are participating. We've been super busy just in the last 3 weeks since Christmas Eve. We've had 2 fire fatalities that we've had to work. And then this morning they're up in Artesia on another fire. So it's been very busy, but I just wanted to kind of show what everybody working together does for us. In 2020, we had over 1,500 hours of training. Jared Zuniga, he's actually one of our volunteers. He received his Certified Fire and Explosives Investigator qualification, which is takes a lot of work to get that done. So Travis Obert obtained his Fire Investigation Technician, and with Brendan, with all of his hard work, he was actually nominated and selected as the New Mexico IAAI Fire Investigator of the Year award for the state of New Mexico. So
wow.
We've had a lot of accomplishments by bringing this group together. I think we had 111 call-outs for 2020 for the group. Those range from, mostly they're all fire investigations, 8 of them were law enforcement assists, so we've actually been getting requested to bring our drone out. The Artesia PD has a 3D scanner. We take our 2D scanners out, so help reconstruct things, look for people. I know the other day they assisted state police with foot pursuit with the drones, so the guys from the office responded out there. Just trying to...
The closure rate from last year was exceptionally high.
Yeah, we're at 91% determination rate, sorry. So, we used to, in the past, we'd have to call state fire marshal's office, so we'd be sitting on the fire for 4 to 6 hours. When they changed things, they quit letting them have take-home vehicles, so wherever they lived, they had to drive to Santa Fe, pick up their truck, and then drive down, so we were having extended wait times, obviously, on fatalities. That's not what we want to do. We want to be able to get there, investigate it, get the person removed as soon as possible, and move on. So it has been very, very successful by unifying and bringing a group of people together, having a one set standard of leadership, and we've had great interaction with the group. So that's the update I have now. I'll be bringing y'all an updated training report for the volunteers, as we did a couple of months ago, with more details to break down, and also some statistics on the calls for last year and response models to show how many people we have going per call. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Mr. Brian Stevens.
Hello, Commissioners. Happy New Year. Just need to provide a brief update. Heads up, there will be a potential for questions from the committee or community from some of your constituents, maybe with regards to our parking lot here and some changes I'll be making to improve some safety, better lighting. Unfortunately, it's going to require some removal of some mature trees that are tearing up our parking lots and pushing up curbs here and there. But the main driver on those things is to improve lines of sight and parking lot safety for when our employees are coming in and out, either early in the morning or late in the evening when the sun is well past down. So these things will happen here at the administration in this parking lot, and then over at the extension office and health office over there, where they're having extra hours and stuff like that. So I'll stand for any questions you might have on this.
Are you gonna do any beautification to the landscaping in your renovation?
I won't say it'll be beautification, but I think the things that I've already done, I don't know if you've noticed, but we did remove some trees over here, and I think just having the open lines of sight are making things look better. Anything we do remove, we will be going down with fabric and just kind of infilling with 3/4 minus type rock or other types of stone. It'll just
Zero
be,
escape stuff.
I'm sorry?
Zero escape type.
Yes, sir. Just reducing the overall maintenance burden as well will be just another benefit of all this stuff too.
Low profile cactuses or something?
I'm sorry?
Low profile,
Yes,
cactuses?
things that can be, unfortunately, a lot of bushes that we do have, they're great and they're nice, but when they got too big and out of hand at their mature areas, they started causing damage and other things. These 2 oak trees outside, for example, right by the light poles, well, they've overgrown the lights, and there's no real nice way to cut those trees back to improve the lighting to where the trees are still going to look good. And just a bunch of things like that. So, yeah, where we can tastefully replace them and really not put in things that we really can't take care of as well.
Yeah. That's a good thing about native.
I like, cactuses and palm trees and stuff like that. Things that stay low to the ground and don't require a lot of water or maintenance is great, especially things that don't put leaves on the ground every year and stuff like that. So.
And there's a few little simple things we can do to kind of church up the front of our building and stuff, and so I'm sure in support of that, something that's easy, low maintenance, and doesn't cost much.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you guys had approved some equipment purchases during last year's budget, and we finally acquired those pieces of machinery. Manufacturer came down and trained several of my staff over the holiday break, and so we're eager to get those machines out, make those improvements. So, and we'll just keep working through piece by piece as we can.
And you will be doing all of the renovations, like the tree removal and everything?
The things that we can do safely internally, that's exactly what we anticipate doing. Tree removal is expensive, but I got a couple of good guys that we've trained in a manner at other places to where I feel confident in their abilities now, where we can close off certain sections and be safe inside of a safe boundary, so, and not put too much risk on hurting a bystander, so to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner.
You come to judge.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, continue your conversation about the West Loop. Just a quick path that we're taking. We've tasked our engineer, our consultant, to design a few of our more technical and complicated areas. We have a road section that we're going to move forward with, and we're going to intend to break ground on this as soon as we can, like county manager mentioned, extend or permanently acquire the right-of-way. And we work through a few challenges with the landowners and BLM. We'll be breaking ground on that hopefully here within about a month or so. So I know you had some questions. We are intending and looking at, like you said, it does make that S-curve to Corrales. But we are looking at just making that a straight shot out on Commerce.
I don't know why we don't. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to not do that.
It really doesn't, but we'll work on the traffic control and how we direct them there. I mean, both of those intersections with 62 and 80 could handle what we anticipate with the traffic. We'll look at both of those. You mentioned going south of the airport. We are evaluating how and where to get there to open up that.
The thing that I thought about south of the airport, that's state land.
Right.
And crossing state land probably doesn't cost us a right-of-way.
No, the cost of the right-of-way would not be the issue. It would be the other hoops we had to jump through as far as Dark Canyon would be a big one, the archaeological issues we might face, wildlife, the environmental, the biological challenges that we'd have to remediate to get across there. utility right-of-ways with some of the industry that's out that way, clearances with FAA, those kind of things we could work through, but that's something we'll evaluate to figure out the best route to get down there.
One of the alternatives is to improve Hidalgo all the way down to Dark Canyon, improve that Dark Canyon Hidalgo intersection, and then improve Dark Canyon all the way out the highway. So you got existing road base to work from there, and you don't have to, but that's an alternative to some of these others. If there's a better way to get across Dark Canyon and come up closer to the airport, yeah, we're going to look at all those.
And that's the good thing about getting this thing across. Once we get to Hidalgo, where we go from there, we have multiple options.
Right.
Be it to Hidalgo, we're talking about Cross and Commerce, and kind of what we went out there and looked at it, and it is not that far a shot to tie it in, so why would we not if we could? And we can. And then we look at your other route to get over there south of the airport. So we're really going to open up this area of town to development and other possibilities.
The only thing that I was thinking about, if we go south of the airport, we've got easy access to land to make turning lanes going south and coming back north.
Right.
If you come out Commerce, you're going to be limited on that, but maybe we can put another light like we're going to do it at 31.
Well, I'll tell you, one of our big motivators to try to get that thing south of the airport is Wes has been working real hard to bring the loop. I know his next big initiative, once we get the southeast going, is he's going to bring it across Carrasco
Road
and bring it down and tie it into 62, 180. And what we really want to do is try to line those up.
Yeah.
And then we've got the full circle all the way around is what we're really working to try to accomplish. So that'll be also where we kind of see where that'll line up and what we can do there. So.
What about Johnson?
We looked at Johnson. We'll put that on our maintenance when we get in season. It's a real narrow road. It does have some issues. I sent them out there to go fix the edges and patch it. But we will get that on our maintenance list to get that up. I don't know if it's a potential for expansion, but it does need some attention. So we'll get that one on the to-do list as soon as we get the weather.
When you bid Twin Wells McDonald?
Those are going to come out here pretty quick. We wanted to get the monies that NMDOT allotted us, and that was what Old Cavern and Black River were specifically for. And now that we know what those bids came in for, we know what we have to work with for Twin Wells and Buck Jackson. We're also going to try to get Longhorn in there. And what we're working with, and we talked to county manager last week, I think we're going to go in there and try to improve McDonald to tie those two together. And we're also looking at another route. I don't know if we're going to be able to make that one happen. But those will be the next ones as soon as we get a road section and a way to get those put together.
Keeping up with all of it, but you're doing a great job.
We're going to try to have those bid. Thank you. We're going to try to have those bid and awarded here soon so that we can have a lot of this substantially completed, not carried near as much over into the next fiscal year.
We met last week to talk about committed monies, budget, and I think what we've got identified would stay within our current fiscal year budget, and then we can look at what monies are needed in the next fiscal year to continue the program forward. So, but I think, and we'll talk more about it as the budget cycle comes around, but the plan that was initiated with getting the data, categorizing the roads, compiling the information and prioritizing, and then systematically working through it is paying huge dividends for the county. So I think that's a result of that focused effort. So.
Well, tell me something on Carrasco Road, when we come off of Carrasco past Grand, coming west to 280 to 162, 180, extending it out to the highway. Would we be crossing mostly state land, or would we be crossing private land?
I think it's private.
He's looked into this more than I have.
There's a lot of parcels across there, depending on the path that you take across there. And so I think it's a mix of private, and if we extend from where Crosco ends out to the National Parks Highway?
Mostly private.
Yeah.
What's the private?
Mostly.
Okay, and how big a problem would that be getting a right of way across there?
You know, looking at it, I don't think it's gonna be real hard because there are some like 2-track roads that kind of make their way on up to 62, 180 there. So I'm not thinking it's gonna be too much of a problem.
Yeah, because what I was thinking is probably that rural outlier like that is probably grazing land, and the rancher, how ticked off are they going to be if we split their grazing land?
So I don't think there's a lot of grazing land there because there's some industrial businesses off and on through there. I think the toughest thing we're gonna do, and we may have to put kind of a dog leg in it, is right where Crosco dead ends now. There's a farmhouse that would sit just to the north, and then there's some farm ground, but if we stay a little bit to the south, maybe just jog it down a little bit, we'll stay out of that problem area, I guess.
I think if we get something in there, sort of like on the west side, it provides access and opportunity to improve some of the land values there that are landlocked.
Okay.
So,
okay. Awesome.
Any other department updates? Seeing none, let's move to the travel request consent agenda.
Any questions here? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the travel request consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion second. Please call the vote.
Beard.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Cordova.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have any emergency business, and I see Mr. Fanning here for legislative update.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good to see you this morning. One of the first things I'm going to cover this morning is not really legislative concern, but I would like to talk to you a little bit about the new proposed draft on the methane rule and what the status on that is and where we are. Some of you may or may not be aware, but a couple of years ago, the OCD made an effort to start looking at a new methane rule involving oil and gas production. Last week ended a 2-week public hearing on that rule. There was a lot of testimony given on both sides. I can say that on probably a majority of the testimony that was given was not a favorable testimony from the other side. A lot of the special interest groups are all about this rule. The reason the OCD has tried to get this rule in place is they have a goal of 98% capture of emissions from oil and gas by the year 2026. They believe that fugitive emissions from oil and gas are a big cause of the depletion of the ozone in this area and other parts of the state. They think also, as far as the OCD is concerned, that these fugitive emissions are costing the state millions of dollars in lost revenue. The new draft rule is very aggressive. It'll require operators to report venting and flaring events as soon as possible, but no more than 2 hours of when the event occurs. In my estimation, soon as possible in 2 hours is pretty close. In some of the remote areas these wells occur in. Also, you have to have all files filed with the OCD within 24 hours of an event. Extensive monitoring of all wells, regardless of production. And I'll get into this a little closer by talking about stripper wells. Stripper wells, more than likely, based on the draft rule, would be impacted as more than any other type of production. 4.31% of oil production and 7.17% of gas production in New Mexico comes from stripper wells. 57% of all wells in New Mexico are stripper wells. These wells are the livelihood of many small operators that depend on that are good law-abiding, tax-paying New Mexico citizens. So they would be heavily impacted by this rule the way it's proposed. The IOGC marginal well report indicates that the direct impact to the oil and gas economy by loss of stripper well production would be substantial, in the millions of dollars. And the requirements of the installation of monitoring and controls on these types of wells would make most of them uneconomic, as required by the rule. So that would also deliver a huge impact to our economy here in southeast New Mexico, but as you were talking to quite extensively earlier about the influence of oil and gas in New Mexico, the whole New Mexico economy would be impacted greatly. Data that they have been collecting for this rule, and I say they, the OCD, is incomplete as of to date, and they say the estimates they will have to have the data before the summer, and yet the process moves on as planned. They think their data will be there by then, but the process moves forward, and the next process will be, a leg in the process will be an actual OCC rulemaking here event where they will move forward with the rulemaking. So that hearing they're proposing hopefully will happen by summer. And even though the public hearings were over, I feel like it would be very favorable for the commission to give consideration to submitting some type of resolution against this rule, or asking for an extension of the implementation of this rule. During this new process, because we are a commission here, I think that would still be considered under the process of the rulemaking by submitting that type of resolution. If we could delay this rule for a while to allow the economy to recover, of course, as we all know, under the present situation, to allow more input from the public in a public setting to get good data available to base this rule off of. It is very obvious that this is an agenda that's moving forward. We have a rule that's looking for a problem. We don't have a problem that's looking for a rule. And that's I'll give that to you for free. That's Jerry Fanning opinion. But I've been involved in this business a long time with the rule makings and how they take place and what's required to get that done. And I think the only way you have a good rule is by having good science-based data to base that rule off of, and this rule does not have that. It's hearsay, it's vague, it's from outside influences that I don't think carry a lot of weight in this process and a lot of good information. So, wanted to bring that to you to see if you had any comments about that. More to come. This rule from the OCD, of course, the OCD's, the Oil Conservation Division is mandated to prevent waste and protect correlative rights. So this is really saying, the loss of income is what they're looking at from these emissions, even though that's not really what they're focusing on. There has been very little testimony with good data that has said what those actual losses might be, because the data is not there to substantiate that. Coming, the New Mexico Environment Department will be doing an emissions rule. That's down the pike this year also, so you'll be hearing more about that. That's in development at this time as we speak. The OCD and the NMED have been working very closely on both of these rules, so you'll see more likely a parallel type of rule coming out of NMED pertaining to emissions.
Emissions, can you define that? I mean, what is that? What type of emissions is it?
Emissions that would be from plants, things like that.
Plant emissions?
Yeah, oil and gas production. I mean, oil and gas refining. No. And I apologize. I'm at that age. Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not making myself more clear. But okay. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. So anyway,
if you fix the plant emissions, you automatically cover the livestock emissions.
We sold all the cows.
Exactly. But it would be from plants, such as oil and gas refining. And oil and gas, gas producing plants. Yes.
Can I ask a question on everything you've already said up to this point? Is it possible, two things, A, to get that sent to me, because all those numbers, I'd love to have those numbers that we could readily have available to help educate.
Okay.
Number two, if we do get something put together to send from the commission, obviously Lee County's gonna sign on right away. But this goes back to my prior conversation, where if you could get a Hidalgo or some random tiny county that depend drastically on the monies that we send to sign on. We know we get Otero County to sign, to also help us, so it's not the same two counties griping about oil and gas. Now we're getting some outliers that drastically and dependently on our money.
I think it's worth exploring.
At least
I can tell you that Mayor Miller has already, and some of the mayors and some of the other folks have already submitted comments to this rule.
Yeah.
Our Representative Greg Nybert has made a big push in that direction.
Right.
But
But if we could really push, I know Otero County, I can get them on board. Obviously, Lee Chavis will be on board. But trying to get some of these other counties that without our
Outside
monies,
of
they have
Southeast.
nothing. They don't, really don't. Coy County, come on.
And you're onto something, because they're sitting there expecting something to come from us. I mean, that's a given. They know we're gonna oppose this. I think if we could get some other counties from outside of their main revenue stream to sign on with this, it would be helpful. Yeah.
we all know fair and well, as was discussed more extensively this morning, that, until we get the buy-in from non-oil and gas producing counties, and especially in the northern portion of the state, our message oftentimes falls on deaf ears. And so I think that's very important to do that. I don't think there's anything that we can do that, or should not do, to encourage that.
Should I don't know if this is the proper venue to talk about it, but should we divide up the state and each commissioner make calls to those other commissions and try to rally some support behind that? I mean, what if we divided that up?
I think we could. I think if we had a proposal and we were able to tie some other data behind it, like the Arrowhead Center data and Namoga data as support. For these reasons, we feel it's important that your county consider this as a priority in supporting, or joining Eddy County's recommendation.
I don't think there's anything, and I 100% agree with you, but the only thing that I could say is that there's no better way to carry a message than to carry it individually. And so that means to put together the talking points, and then somebody from Eddy County has to go to those meetings and present that information, because one-on-one presentation is the best presentation there is. I can sit and call you, and I can be good buddy with you all the time, but if you're sitting there, you get a feel for what the body language is. I mean, I do every time we meet and we have different issues and stuff. You can just look around the board and see, hey, are they really for this, or are they just giving you some lip service? And I think a lot of times when you talk to people on the telephone, that's what you get, a lot of lip service.
Well, and to your point, having talking points, is there a way to get the emission data that they have, or what they're working with, or the numbers? I think that's going to be important to discuss with people as well. I think that most people have no idea how that works,
Your point's well taken, Commissioner. I think one of the things that we have seen, and I'm saying recently, up until the last couple of months, that data has not been made public.
Why?
Because they say it's incomplete. That's the reason that I have received. I can tell you this firsthand. Made 2 calls to the OCD in the last 10 days. Left messages. Have yet to get a call back.
It's hard for me to believe that a law can be made without substantive data,
I'll try to I'll try to reiterate what I said earlier. This process was set in place 2 years ago with basically zero data or very vague data. I won't say zero because it's very vague. And it is moving forward through the legal process of adopting a rule. That data has never been acquired, and that we are being told at each hearing that we will have it. Without getting too far in the weeds, hear the same thing through the legislature with Legislative Finance Committee. The data never seems to get to the point where we have an opportunity to comment or have input to until the 11th hour when maybe we don't have that opportunity anymore. So yes, very frustrating, very frustrating. I will continue in my capacity to try to get that data and to you. And like I said, 10 days ago, Al and I had this discussion really about giving this presentation today. I have done everything I know to do to try to get as much data for you today as I could. I can't even get a call back.
Well, I agree 100% with what Commissioner Cordova says, that how can we make law without the data? But I will tell you what the data says is the opposite of what they want to say, and that's why the data is being withheld.
Exactly.
That's the reason.
You know, part of the challenge is, NMOGA is pretty, they have the resources to try and compile some of this information, but it comes back to the earlier point about Arrowhead and the financial data, legitimizing that data. And if it comes from NMOGA, well, it's skewed because it's NMOGA. But if that's the data that's available, and they pull it from the OCD records, right, the state records, so we can continue to work with our contacts to.
And working to convince the people that we need to convince, we have to be careful that we don't fall into the same trap that we use actual factual data, something that we can hang our hat on, and it has to be 100% factual, no matter if we like it or not. It's got to be the facts, and that's what we have to. And that's what we have to sell them.
They find one little discrepancy in there, and they'll throw the whole thing out.
That's
And in nursing and healthcare, we call it evidence-based. It has to be evidence-based, so.
Be careful getting too far afield. This is supposed to be the comment section where you listen and you don't talk back. It's got to be, if you're going to, it needs to be put as an agenda item if we're going to do this kind of discussion, this kind of thing.
But as we come to the commissioner comments, they could make a suggestion.
They can comment back, that's right.
They could make a suggestion that on the next agenda we have this.
So we really need this legislative update during department update.
Well, this is legislative. This is both. I just.
You would say this was a department.
This is a department update. Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
I tried to kind of do it all. Okay.
We do can we?
So all I did during this, just make a suggestion that I think that it would be something the commission should consider.
Yeah, we can.
Department/legislative update on the next agenda, and then we can discuss it.
Okay. All right. Okay, I know everyone's excited that the legislature starts today. We have 60 days of fun and excitement behind a big chain link fence and locked doors that we're going to be able to access over the internet when it's working. One of the great things about this is that we've already had 102 pieces of legislation introduced on the House side, and we have 130 on the Senate side pre-filed. Today, we may know what the rules are going to look like as far as how the session will be operated and how they will meet. There's all kinds of rumors out there. We know the committees have not been appointed that we know of yet to hear this legislation. We're supposed to know more of that today. Rumors say that we may see 2 weeks of committees meeting and then a week of floor sessions. That's the possibility. These are all rumors, and I want to qualify that ahead of time. So then back into committees. Everything will be virtual. I have made several attempts to try and explore ideas of how we might show some type of appreciation through the cities, to the Department of Development or something, to our legislators. It's a challenge. Everything would have to go through the Sergeant at Arms there. Conversations will only be by phone and through text. Meeting outside of the legislature with legislators, as Commissioner Carlson alluded to earlier, is a very large challenge. in the fact that we have the mandates that we can only have so many people at a time. Finding a place to do that, finding a place to have lunch and dinner is a challenge. So it is a very interesting and challenging time at the legislature right now. There will not be a State of the State address today, as we have normally seen from the governor. Date in the future to be announced. If that happens, I'm really confused of all this process and where it's going. I sat through legislative council meeting yesterday where they discussed how they were going to conduct the redistricting coming later in the year. That was an interesting conversation. I sat through the Legislative Finance Committee yesterday and talked about end of the year budgets and pre-filing of certain bills. Very interesting process. It is so new to me, my head's spinning around. If it sits here and looks like it's turned around, it's probably because it is nothing like we've ever seen before. It's very challenging for the public and others to participate in this process, and I'm sure that as the days go by, when I give you reports, and you'll probably hear the same thing. I hope it goes better than what it's appearing right now. There's some legislation that has already been pre-filed. I can tell you this, it's not favorable to anyone in this state. The Speaker has promised us in prior meetings that he will prioritize this legislation so it will be heard appropriately and prioritized to the citizens of New Mexico, and it pulled out. There's 232 pieces of legislation here right now. We've got 60 days. And how these committees meet and how it acts on, because we will not see a reading of these pieces of legislation as they pass through committee on the floor, which has always been the process before, announcements and how they look. When will committees meet? What committees will be meeting where? How many senators and representatives will be in the Capitol at one time? I have talked to numerous representatives and senators. They cannot tell me. They don't know how many folks are going to be there. Estimated up to 500 people in the Capitol at a time. But that's staff and legislators, and some legislators have already said they do not plan to show up. They're going to do it all virtual. To your point, Commissioner Carlson, a face-to-face in a committee hearing in my world, in my job, and what I do has always been very effective. To be able to go into a representative or or a senator's office and sit down face-to-face and discuss our issues and our concerns has always been very effective. This type of a system, I'm not sure how effective we can be, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
There was some talk about postponing a part of or the session in general to a later date in the year. Did that just fall by the wayside? Or?
I have, in the last 3 meetings I've attended of the Legislative Council, it has not been discussed. I think what they're looking at is they feel like they can accommodate the legislation they want to see passed through this process of meeting in committee and then going later on into a floor session. But I will go on record and say this, because I talked to the Speaker's secretary last week, and there was a lot of frustration in speaking with her of the desire that I think most of the staff in the Capitol desired to see that delay. But for whatever reason, and you can formulate those ideas on your own, why they will not agree to that. They could have met today and moved to postpone it.
Yes.
Statutorily, they have to meet today.
Right.
But they could move today to do that. And it may be a surprise. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate what we hear today. I don't think we're going to hear that.
There's a vaccine. Everybody get vaccinated and move on with business.
Well, even if we postponed it till March sometime, it would be better.
And the statistics from what I understand, the statistics out of Los Alamos, which one of the representatives mentioned, said that based on statistics, that by March, that the virus will be way lower, and probably just because of several factors, vaccinations and just the herd immunity would go down quickly, and that would be a better idea to start then, but it has not been mentioned anymore.
Commissioner Carlson's prior point, it's a lot easier to do whatever the heck you want when you're not looking somebody in the eye.
Yes. What was that? I'm sorry.
I said it's a heck of a lot easier to do what you want when you're not looking somebody in the eye, to Commissioner Carlson's previous point. So, okay.
Anything else? If there's any legislation that is of interest, personal interest to you or to the county that you don't see in my reports or something like that, please bring that to my attention. There are 232 bills I'm trying to go down and look at right now, and I'm kind of picking those out. But if there's something that's of interest that you want me to specifically focus on, please let me know. And I'll be here. So I'm being here day and night. So anyway, all right.
Thank you, Jared.
You bet.
County Manager, do we turn time over to Mr.
Miller? Yeah. So the next item is legislators and elected officials, but Mayor Miller, do you want to?
Sure. I don't really have anything to bring before you, but I thought since I hadn't been down in a while and you have some new commissioners, I'd come down and introduce myself. I'm Ray Miller. I'm mayor of Artesia. Some of them know me too well, so don't listen to what they say about my reputation. I will tell you, and the only thing I'll mention to you, and it's been months ago now, your road folks had a project there on North 26. They contacted our folks about seeing if we would want to do in conjunction our section inside the city limits. Project worked extremely well, was well coordinated by your folks. Constructors did a wonderful job. I mean, those type of things where you can work together really makes it a lot more cost effective for everybody. But anyway, I commend them for their efforts to actually coordinate with us, and it worked out great. But anyway, unless you all have any questions, I'll get out of your hair.
Thank you for coming down, Ray.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Always good to see you, sir.
I'll see you too often.
See you Thursday. Are there any other elected officials? I don't see any. My comments in the past week-ish, 10 days, the number of cases in the county have been more moderate than they were in the previous weeks. Some of the test data, number of tests, that data is a little squirrely at this point, but it hasn't been changed in the last several days, so I'm assuming they're legitimate. But with that, there's a lot of discussion about what are the schools going to be able to do. I know Superintendent Loving, I was talking with Mayor Miller, Superintendent Null from Artesia, and I know Superintendent Washburn here in Carlsbad. The data about the students is disheartening in terms of academics, attendance, and loss. And so the county participated in a state-sponsored pod event, which for vaccinations last Thursday. There were 200 doses, and they expended all of those doses, which is the objective. They were the Pfizer doses, and you don't want to turn any back or have them expire. But it was well organized, well executed between the city of Carlsbad, some county staff, and NMDOH. Those types of opportunities to have a pod event for teachers or other individuals that may need it. It's a choice, you know. You get to choose whether you do it or you don't. And it's been about a 50-50. You know, I've talked with the folks at the hospitals, talked to county folks, talked to city folks, 50-50. But that's 50% of a significant population. And so one of the governor's immediate staff had called Mayor Miller, myself, and Mayor Janway to try and coordinate some efforts and activities around the positivity in southeast New Mexico. I haven't heard back from her at this point, but these kinds of things I think are important to try and help get kids back in school, to help businesses have more flexibility. If the numbers, if the positivity continues, we may get to a kind of a yellow where the county's red now. Fingers crossed, but it takes effort and activity if we don't proactively do things and just ride it out because of the limitations that are placed upon us by the state. We'll be hard pressed to get out of that. And I don't see the state taking the approach that some of our surrounding states have done in just going forward. So it's a balancing act. I think that as a county we have to be proactive in trying to reach out and help establish some of those parameters, and there are things that I don't want to say defined, but we have strong opinions about, and we can act in specific ways to express our opinions. But given the situation where we are not the ones that control those parameters, I think we have to do everything we can to work together within those parameters to get past them. Once we get past them, then I think things will open and we'll be able to take care of business. So we're going to continue to work on those efforts and fronts. The county continues to provide the services that are asked for. There's a lot of work behind the scenes from a lot of people doing a lot of good things. So I just commend them for that and ask them to continue. It's a long, hard slog. And you get burned. You get burned out. Right? Detention, they work day in, day out. The population moving in and out of there. Our county employees keeping track of who's out, who can return to work, and all those kind of, but we're doing it to try and make sure that people can work safely, without risk, without concern, and still meet the requirements that the citizens of Eddy County ask of this commission and of the county. So we'll continue to do those things. We appreciate all your support.
Mr. County Manager, we'll move on to County Commissioners' comments. As contrary to custom, I'm going to start out those comments. Today I really have one kind of item of business I'd like to discuss, and that will be tonight the school board has gotten some information. They're going to vote to potentially return to school, but not really. That they're wondering if they can follow all of the guidelines that's been placed upon them. And so in that, I would like to voice my support for returning to school any way we can. They've got some notification that it may be like a 1 to 5 student to teacher ratio return. They are hearing as well that they may have to shut down any school for 10 days. If there was one positive test, that means any one of the kids, any janitor, anybody. So under those circumstances, it would be almost impossible to do that. But I think that if the governor cracks the door open at all for education, I would support that 100%, us sticking our foot in there, because we complain about suicide rates and depression and all those things, and if we're given any leeway or any opportunity to get kids back in school, even one day a week for a mother or for children or their parents anyway, would make a huge difference just for somebody to have a day off. So whether it's mom or the kids, so they all need a day off. So I would just like to voice my support for the schools in returning to school any way, shape, or form we can. They're a little bit concerned with it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to ramp up, and then if we get shut down, I know that it's going to be difficult, and I'd help any way that I can, and would just like to voice my support for that. And having said that, we'll start with other commissioner comments.
I I agree. Any opportunity that we have from the state, we should take it. And, you know, Al and I talked about this and try to do a really good job at it so that Santa Fe recognizes that for southeastern New Mexico. And I am interested to see what can be done about a pod, you know, for vaccination for teachers. I think we were discussing this morning. And I know it's an individual choice, but if 50% of them want it, I feel they should get it. And I would give up my spot in line to let them have it. And that's it.
I've got a couple of things just real quick. I would agree with everything both commissioners have said. Any kind of leeway, I can speak from experience what school does for kids. My son is on week 4, 3 or 4, and the kid's a completely different kid. You know, he's always been a good kid, but and talking to all of the, it's kind of neat. Artesia's developed a mom's group of artisans in Lubbock, and it seems like as of last night we have a dad's group in Artesia because we're all here, they're all there, and it's a great support system. But everybody's saying the same thing. You know, the kids are just excelling with finally talking again, and that parent to kid it's just been fantastic. So anything, one day a week will help these kids start communicating with other people other than mom and dad or grandma or whoever is dealing with them. So I support anything we can do to get them in. I just wanted to call attention to a couple bills that I find interesting and why. House Bill 29 has nothing really to do necessarily with the county, but it does have to do with schools. I think it's something important. It's about hair. So I can see how this is going to probably be high on the golf's thing. But it does. It has to do with hair. My point of the whole bill is if you read halfway through it, it's about hairstyles and all this stuff, right? But then it gets into asthma and how to properly make sure kids have the right. So reading these bills, make sure when you're looking at them and it's discrimination against hair. Well, that's sort of the bill, but then there's a whole lot of other stuff in them. So please take time to glance through the bills that you want to, even though it looks like it might not pertain to us. There's a lot of other stuff in these bills. House Bill 37, something we're looking at pretty hard, is the paid sick leave. I think that would really hurt small businesses right now when they're already you just hiked the minimum wage on them as of January 1st. Now you might hit them with this. It's going to really do some serious damage to small businesses that are barely hanging on as is. So a couple bills out there. There's another detention that I've already talked to the warden about, and so he's helping me understand that one, House Bill 40. But House Bill 37, I think, is something we really need to try to understand and see what kind of impact it will have on our businesses here in New Mexico. I forgot who up here, or if it was you, said there's some legislation that's just bad for New Mexico. It's not just just our corner. So yeah, so it'll be long nights because I'm kind of like you. I'm a nerd. I like to watch all of it, so it keeps my blood pressure really high. That's all I have, I think.
I'd like to build on the school deal. I mean, I think that needs to be the number one goal, is getting these kids back in school. And if they're going to crack the door open, we need to go charging through it with everything we've got. I think the only solution to this all long term are the vaccines. And is there anything we can do to get more of the stuff? I know of some people that are going to Texas and getting vaccinated. I don't know all the criteria of that, but I would join you and trade my spot when it comes up for one of those teachers, because I feel like I can get to Texas and get that done at some point. Mm-hmm. But long term, that's the answer to open the schools, is the vaccine. And that I'll let you have at it.
Okay. I agree with everything said on the school. I think that we have an obligation to protect the kids as well as we can, but we also have an obligation to give them a good education. And I think that one of the problems that we're seeing is we're seeing good students that are becoming mediocre students because they're not having the opportunity to be in that schoolhouse. And I think we're doing them a disservice in not being able to provide that schooling. As hard as the teachers try to teach online, I don't think that it's working, because I've talked to several of the teachers and they're talking about their top students are now C at best students. And when that happens, then we're a failure in our education system, no matter what the cause of it is. And I think that we've got to do something, whether it's 5 days a week or 1 day a week, we've got to do something to get those kids back into school so that we can meet the obligation that we have to our kids to provide them a great education. So that's one of the things that I would like to say. And I think that if we could do a resolution as a commission to help in any way we can to encourage that to happen, I think that we need to do that as a commission. So that was one of the things. I also saw on some of the bills, watching the evening news and stuff, where the marijuana deal is coming up, and they were talking about recreational use and stuff like that. And my problem is, whether it's right or wrong, I don't think they know all the ramifications of approving, legalizing recreational use marijuana, because one of the thoughts I have, if you have somebody that if it is legalized and you don't have a standard for that person to get in a car and drive down the road, he may have had one toke on a marijuana cigarette, and he drives down there, a policeman stops him, he's got to arrest him for DWI because he has no standard to go by. And what if that person then drives down the road after he's been stopped and hits and kills somebody, and then what kind of liability does the cities and the counties have? So I think that some of these bills, they need to be well thought out and well planned before they implement them. That's my only thing on that. But pretty much other than that, I'm good.
Thank you. Mr. County Manager.
Is there a suggestion or recommendation that you'd like me to pursue for subsequent meeting in terms of support for the schools? Or I heard a lot of support.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll work on that. We'll have a resolution of support that we would be able to provide to the superintendents from Eddy County, and we would get that to the state as well, and we'll bring that up for approval on the next agenda.
Thank you very much. I guess we have one more motion to introduce.
Yeah, we have no executive session, Mr. Chairman, so the last item of business is to adjourn.
So moved. Second. Motion second, please call for the vote.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
You don't want to stick around? Voted yes.